I'm back. So this video is books I read in August. I know it's almost the end of September, so I'll do books I read in September at the beginning of October. But yeah, these are the books that I finished in August according to my storygraph. Please bear in mind these aren't all books I started in August and finished in August, because that's pretty intense. I read quite a few books in August. And a lot of them are like really short, so that's why. My camera's dying. Okay. Hello. It's many days later. And I'm probably a bit sick. The first book I read, the first book in this pile is this one. This, I have a poster on it because I was using this for my master's degree, for my thesis. So it's annotated heavily and I have that on there. But the book is Earthly Encounters by Stephanie Clare. And it looks at I was writing on how people connect with nature and ways to stimulate sensory engagement creatively to help increase connection to nature, particularly for people with originally people from ethnic minority backgrounds and people with disabilities, because the literature is really scarce there and it's a problem. So this looks at sensation and kind of feminist theory and also some post-colonial kind of theories and how they intersect with our engagements with the more than human world. So that just means elements of nature really, and that could include animals, could include plants, rivers. So yeah, it's about the sensations that we have when we encounter nature. She touches on it briefly, but not a lot, on how her access to natural space is because of her positionality as a white Canadian woman. So it talks a bit about race as well, which is up my street. The next is a drama, actually. I read The Tempest by William Shakespeare. I like Shakespeare a lot. I like his plays. I studied them at school because I think you just have to if you're in Britain. But I do like Shakespeare, and I've been wanting to read this for a long time, and I got the Wordsworth edition a while ago, and I finally got around to reading it because it's not long, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's a bit weird, but then again it's a Shakespeare play, so obviously. But yeah, I could do a whole kind of video on my Shakespeare plays that I've read. They're quite interesting, or my favourite dramas, because they're not all Shakespeare. So yeah, maybe I'll do that. But The Tempest, William Shakespeare. I would recommend it. The next book I read was this one. It's Crossed by Ali Condi. It's a YA dystopian. It's the second book in a series, the Matched series. I'm reading these because I started reading them when I was like 12 or something, and I just can't leave them unfinished because I have a problem. I don't love them, but that's because I'm a very different reader now. I read very different things, which is fine. But yeah, if you're into dystopian YAs, you might want to give this a go. It's got a bit of a romance in it. I say a bit, it's kind of based around the romance. Anyway, it's got romance in it. It's about evil societies choosing what you do and resisting that, because that's what all dystopians are. So yeah, I'd recommend it if you're into YA dystopian romance situation. The next is this beautiful copy of poems on nature, and it's introduced by Helen MacDonald. Yeah, Helen MacDonald. Can you see? And it's a Macmillan Collectors Library edition. So they're lovely. They have like hardback French flaps. French flaps and then a hardback. And this is the inside. And then they've got gold on the edges. The design on the inside is really beautiful. Just like a light blue volume. I think it's really nice. I never read with the dust jackets on. When I read hardbacks, I just feel like I'll damage them. So I always just carry around this. And it's a fabric. I don't know. But yeah, it's just a collection of poems on nature. It is quite, from what I remember, like from English and Irish writers mainly. So if you want like kind of different perspectives on nature poems, you might not get that. But I did discover some favourite poems in here, so yeah. I think it was worth it. Definitely recommend it. Nice read if you're into poetry. A nice read if you want to do one for each day. It's broken up by season. So I think by like winter, autumn, spring, summer. Yeah. And it starts with spring, which is quite nice. So if you want to buy this for spring and then read it through the year, it could be quite cute. Next book is this one. It's a Penguin Books copy of the Great Ideas collection. It's number 1 in the Great Ideas series. Hello. Hi. So this is Seneca on the shortness of life. This is basically meditations on how you can live a good life, how you can die well by living well. It's very interesting. Some of the stuff that ancient Greeks and Romans say about women aren't great. So like take some of this with a pinch of salt, but it is really interesting, and I would recommend this to everyone. So yeah. And then if you're interested in the collection, it says on the back the whole collection that's part of this series. So yeah, Seneca on the shortness of life, some philosophy, if you're into philosophy, and ancient literature. Anyway. The next book is The Communist Manifesto by Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. This is Marxist literature, in case you didn't know. It's interesting. I guess it could be very inspiring for some people. I just find it interesting intellectually. Yeah, I recommend it. I think it's like key reading for understanding different points of view, and it's nice that there's this like tiny Penguin Classics edition. It's the Little Black Classics. Sorry, my copy's really beat up. I've had this for years and never read it, and finally got around to reading it in August. So, I mean, yeah, I think it's a piece of history, really, and quite a fundamental one. So, yeah, I think it's worth reading. It's definitely not 80p now. It was 80p when I got it. So, yeah. It's definitely not 80 pence anymore, but it was when I bought it. So you can tell it was a while ago. But yeah, Communist Manifesto. Workers of the world unite and all that. And the next one is from this new series that Penguin's doing. It's penguin green ideas. So Seneca was penguin great ideas, and these are penguin's green ideas. And I read one in August. Oh, can you tell? Yeah. It's number 12, and it's this one. The World We Once Lived In by Natalie. If I'm saying her name wrong, please do correct me. I thought this was really beautiful. This is like one of my top recommendations from the month. For the month. Of the month. Grammar. Anyway, because she talks about the forest and feeling emotions towards nature, but also she was an activist. I think she was also, was she a forester? She had a great knowledge of forests. And like, I think this was mainly talking about the Congo Basin. This is the problem if I don't record the video straight away. Anyway, I think it was the Congo Basin she's talking about. So it's about African nature, which I think is nice to read about because we don't really get that much insight from Africans on African nature in popular literature here, which sucks. But yeah, this was about sacred groves and stuff, which you can find across like, well, in India also, but you can find in Ghana. So yeah, I would really recommend this. It's probably one of my top recommendations. I have a couple that were really good as well. The World We Once Lived In by Natalie. Would really recommend it. This one is really weird, but I really enjoyed reading it and read it in like an afternoon. It's really short, really small, £6. I think you can maybe buy it for cheaper online. This is called Mixed Race Superman, and it's by Will Harris. There are a couple of different editions. I think there's a yellow one. I don't know what the difference is, but I got the blue one. This book compares Keanu Reeves and Barack Obama as mixed race men, and this book kind of looks at the experiences of mixed race men and masculinity, and it's very interesting because I'm a mixed race person, I'm not a man, so it was a really interesting insight for me into what that experience might be like for a dude. I think Will is I think he describes himself as an Anglo-Filipino, like he's part Filipino, part English. Oh, I probably got his self-definition wrong. That's really bad. Sorry, Will. Anglo-Indonesian. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Will Harris is Anglo-Indonesian. So if you're into different mixes as well, which is nice because a lot of the time in mixed race literature, the black and white mix is the most common one, which is what I am. And we get, most of the discussion, or most of the space for discussion based on us, which isn't necessarily fair. So it's good to hear other voices from different mixes. And I'm really excited about the discussions that are there. So mixed race literature, mixed race Superman, kind of a weird one, but a kind of a must read because it's a very entertaining but important kind of insight. I like the way that Will thinks about things. So yeah, I would recommend it. Next one is a really intense one. I've been reading this book for 2 years. I stopped for a long time in the middle because it was just too intense. I don't think I was ready to read it. I think I bought it when I was 20 or 19. 20. I was 20. And I wasn't able to read it. This is called Sex and the Citadel by Shireen Al-Feki. And it's a kind of look into experiences of sex and sexuality in the Middle Eastern region generally, but Egypt in particular, because that's where her heritage is. I think she's an Egyptian American woman. So yeah, this basically just looks at charting sex and sex life and sexual experience across the region, and it's really illuminating, it's really shocking, it's really heavy. So, you know, it doesn't just stick to like nice funny topics, it goes into real detail about real things that people live with and face every day in their experience. So if you're going to read it, I would recommend it 100%. I think it's a really important book, but I also think it's quite demanding of you emotionally, so bear that in mind. But yeah, I recommend it. I think it's essential reading. I really liked everything, most things that I read in August, so yeah, I finally finished it and I'm happy. This book is called Antlers of Water. Look at this, just look at it. It's beautiful. I think it's just blue when you take off the yeah. And then it's got silver, right? This is by Bloomsbury, I think? No. Canongate, excuse me. And it's edited by Kathleen Jamie. And this is a collection of writing, so it's an anthology, it's a collection of writings on Scottish nature and like nature writing on Scotland and from Scottish people, either Scots themselves or people who've moved to Scotland. So there's some Highlanders in here, there are Islanders, there's some Lowlanders, and there's some people from England who've moved to Scotland and who are writing on Scottish nature. So there's a good variety here, and they're all writing on different things. And I read it so fast, even though it's not insubstantial in terms of page numbers. But it's quite readable, so it's like the text is quite large, but it's some of the best nature writing I have read this year, or it may be even in the past couple of years since I started reading nature writing. It's so fresh, so engaging and immersive, and they're just speaking facts, like left, right and centre, every single person who contributed to this volume. Especially the first half, I loved it. If you're looking for a nature writing, or you're looking to get into nature writing, or you're looking to get into anthologies, this is a great place to start, I think. I would really recommend this to everyone. That was my favourite read. Yeah, I think that was my favourite read. Yeah. Antlers of Water, and it's edited by Kathleen Jamie, and then the authors are many, they're very numerous. Oh, so good. Okay. Then we have this, which is Mixed Other by Natalie Morris. I posted about this on my Instagram. And she liked my picture, which was very kind of her. And it's explorations of multiraciality in modern Britain. And I like this because a lot of the literature on mixed race people that is accessible is from the US. And it's really important and very interesting, but it doesn't really necessarily map very well onto experiences of being mixed in the UK, because they are quite distinct things. And within that, each mixed person experiences their mix very differently. So it was interesting to have this. Online, I saw some reviews say that it would be nice to have different mixed representations, because Natalie is black and white, but she interviews lots of people, and she interviews like black Asians and like white Indian mixes and I can't remember. There's lots of different people that she interviews. So I was kind of a bit confused about that because she does interview different mixes and minority mixes, like Black and Asian people. So this has a lot of different mixes in it, which I really appreciated because it's good to read outside of my experience, as I've said. But also I could kind of relate a little bit to what Natalie was saying because she's coming from this black-white, as in the ways that we've constructed races, if we look at it that way, black-white heritage that I also share. So it was kind of an accessible way in for me. Just like if you're white and Asian, you might find a good in with the way that Will speaks. So I liked her voice. And I thought she did a good job at weaving together the interviews that she did. And I really recommend it if you're mixed. It can be a bit weird reading about your experience from someone else. Like someone else writing about what it's like to be mixed. Because I've never read that before, these books. And I just sort of experienced life. But it was nice in a way because it opens your mind up. So I would recommend it. And I recommend it to everyone because mixed race people are the fastest growing ethnicity. And I think a lot of people who are mixed are kind of misunderstood. Yeah, there's just a lot going on in that. That's a whole different conversation, but mixed other, it's good. Good book. We have 2 more books to go. Poetry again. This is The Love Poems of Rumi, and it's edited by Deepak Chopra. This book is... okay, it's not Rumi's poetry. It is poems written that are inspired by the themes in Rumi's poetry. Written by 3 people, I believe. They're quite saucy. So, I mean, if you're into saucy poetry, they're quite intense as well, but they're really good love poems. I really love ghazals, which are like Persian poems on love. I really like ghazal poetry. I'll put the spelling here, and if you're from Iran, you can correct my pronunciation. So yeah, that's this. Love Poems of Rumi. Great poems, saucy. Also has some recommended reading in it, which is nice. And you can read it in like 20 minutes. But, you know, you shouldn't really rush poetry, but you could if you wanted to. The last book, a classic, literally, because it's in Penguin Classics. Penguin Modern Classics? Yeah. Frantz Fanon's Black Skin, White Moss. Very interesting post-colonial read. Really iconic in post-colonial literature. This is early Fanon, as opposed to like The Wretched of the Earth. But if you're reading Fanon, bear in mind, he writes some questionable things about gay people. Or wrote some questionable things about gay people. And the way he writes about... sorry, I just had pasta. And the way he writes about women, absolutely atrocious. Like, genuinely terrible. It kind of asserts things about the black female experience, which is... I don't love. I'm kind of interested in hearing what black women think about his takes on black women. Because sometimes he talks about them in a pathologized way, and then other times he refuses to talk about them at all. And then with white women, he basically says that they asked to be raped by black men. That's not true. Otherwise, it's really interesting insight on the experience of being a black man in the 50s in France. 50s? In the 50s. So I do think it's important, but I also think it's important that when you read this, you keep your wits about you, because he says some fucked up shit. Not gonna lie. So, recommend, but like, you know. And that's it. That's all she wrote for August Reads. Yeah. So how many did I read? I read 13 books in August, but a lot of them are like short, so yeah, or finished 13 books in August. Yeah, that's it. That's it for me. I'll be back with my September reads soon because it is the end of September. Yeah. See ya!